welcome. My name is Brittany and this is my first YouTube video. So I am brand new to YouTube, long-time watcher, first-time video maker. And I just really love YouTube as a resource. I've learned so much from various people sharing their favorites, their projects, their experience online. So if I can share something, if we can bond over books, over hobbies and crafts and whatnot, let's do it. Let's hang out. This first video is going to be my favorite books kind of all time. I really started tracking my reading back in 2020. That was the first year I started tracking everything. So we are on year 4 of just like reading with intention. So I just want to share my favorites, see, just so you can get a good feel for me as a reader. Does anything vibe? Are we like compatible? Do you want to hang out? Let's just get into some of my favorite books. I do have a nice mix, sci-fi, fantasy, contemporary. I have a few nonfiction, historical fiction. So just kind of a nice mix, as I do enjoy stories from various genres. Let's just start off and get Brandon Sanderson out of the way, because I know he's on a lot of favorites videos and he is gonna be in mine. So I got 3 of his series to talk about. The first one is Skyward. So this one is so special to me. This was my first Brandon Sanderson novel, and I did listen to it. So I'm also a big audiobooker. I love audiobooking because I can bebop around, do what I need to do, and I'm just listening to the best stuff. So I would recommend the audiobook for this series. It is narrated by Susie Jackson, and she does a wonderful job with all the different voices. Fantastic. Skyward is about Spensa, and she wants to be a fighter pilot so bad. That's all she wants. But her dad was a fighter pilot for their planet and was kind of famously shot down and labeled a coward. And so now everyone looks at her the same way. Like, we don't know about you, Spensa. So you meet Spensa, you learn about her struggles, her frustrations, like her determination. Like, she wants to be a fighter pilot so bad. So you go with her on this journey, and it's fantastic. You meet a lot of really great side characters. There's great friendships. Her arc is actually really impressive. This is young adult sci-fi. I do think it's appropriate for younger readers. Spensa's 14. There is death in this book, but I do feel like it's handled, I do not have kids, but I do feel like it's handled in a age-appropriate way if you had some younger readers in your life. There's combat sequences, and they're done really well. Like, I don't know, I can picture what's happening when I listen. That's done really well. But yeah, it's a fantastic story. I really loved book 1 and 2 a lot, Skyward and Starsight. I did not enjoy book 3, Cytonic, as much, just because of kind of where we're at within the world. But I am hoping it brings us back around in Defiant. I have not caught up on the series. I'm in the middle of a reread, re-listen to the main series, and then I am going to add in the novellas that he either wrote or co-wrote with Jancy Patterson. So I'm excited to kind of just get into it, but I'm also scared because I don't want it to end. Because I just love those first 2 books so much. And Spensa, and just, oh my gosh, the best side characters. I really enjoy them. So that is a Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Let's move my little pile over here. With my Sanderson journey, my next pick up with him was Mistborn, the Final Empire. So this is a fantasy trilogy. The Final Empire, Well of Ascension, and then The Hero of Ages is the last book. So in this book you follow Vin and Kelsier and crew. So she's kind of a orphan, a street urchin. She's working with a crime crew basically. And then Kelsier and his buddies, they end up meeting Vin and recruit her to take down the Lord Ruler. And he, like, oh my god, he's a really great bad guy. He's a really good villain. I actually have some fan art back here of this guy. That's a Steel Inquisitor, and he is creepy, so terrifying. The magic system in here is really cool. So this was the first time I was introduced to like a hard and soft magic system concept. There is world building where you have to learn what is going on in the world with the characters, the magic, and then when things happen, you're like, oh shit, like that's not good because of XYZ. Like, the limitations of what our characters are going through. Soft magic system, on the other hand, would be like, oh no, someone died. Just kidding, they're back through the power of love. There's not a lot of rules, and so I do like this type of fantasy style. I know it's fantastical. I know I can just enjoy the story, but I do like things to make sense and have high stakes. And as I've progressed in my reading, I do like when there is consequences that you can't really get out of. It does make for a more interesting read. So I really enjoy The Final Empire, the whole series. Really great. There is a romance I really enjoy in here. Great friendships, camaraderie, learning to trust again. There's some fantastic twists. I think Brandon Sanderson really is wonderful at kind of just taking his time, taking you through a story, and then the endings are so explosive, and like all that learning, all that magic that you went through, like I do feel like it really pays off in the end. So this is another fantastic series from Sanderson that I enjoy. I also really like Era 2 Mistborn. I know a lot of people are kind of like hit or miss on that. But Era 2 Mistborn takes place after the events of the first trilogy. It's like a more Western style setting, so our main characters like have guns and they're just kind of like more cowboys. I just think it's kind of fun. There is a new book out with that most recently. I'm not caught up, so I think I'll kind of finish my Skyward read through, maybe bounce back, read through Mistborn Era 2 so I can get to that last book. I like the new set of characters. You follow Wax and Wayne primarily. It's just kind of a good time. I don't know, I liked it and it was different. Lastly for Sanderson, before we move on, is The Way of Kings. So this is a fantasy epic. Book 5 in the Stormlight Archive is coming out this year, and I've read and been told from Sanderson, you know, his like updates that he does, that it's going to be a 2-arc series within the Stormlight Archive. So book 5 will complete the Way of Kings saga. So you follow a bunch of different characters. You follow a surgeon, you follow a scholar, a war chief. So you follow all these different characters, what they've been through, kind of where they're at, what they're looking for. But there's also some like lore before them that we get. You have like these Knights Radiants, these heralds, and kind of what has happened in the world is currently affecting what's going on. I really enjoy just all the characters. Again, this is a fantastic audiobook. I didn't say this about Mistborn, but I did listen to Mistborn as well, and Mistborn and Way of Kings were both narrated by Michael Kramer, and he does wonderfully. That is an audiobook tip. If there is a narrator you really enjoy, you can search for that narrator and find other books they've done. I really do enjoy Michael Kramer and all the Sanderson he narrates. We're just gonna get these out of the way too. Sarah J Maas, I know she's really popular. I feel like I had the benefit of reading ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Throne of Glass like 7 years ago. I read this before it blew up, before a lot of people knew about it, and I just honestly feel like it was the best because I could just like be in my own little fairy world and enjoy these stories. Court of Thorns and Roses is, in my mind, the trilogy is canon. Like it could have ended there. There is a novella and a 4th book, and there is more continuation on in that series, but I just really enjoyed that initial trilogy. I am in the minority. I do like the audiobooks, not the graphic audio, just the regular audiobooks. And you follow Farah, and she ends up killing a wolf who ends up being a fairy, and there are consequences. So now she's taken from the human world into the fairyland, and chaos ensues from there. It is a fun time. I don't know, I just think it's kind of slow and cozy in a weird way. Yeah, I just have fond memories of listening to that for the first time. Throne of Glass is more of an epic scope fantasy compared to ACOTAR because it's just kind of more condensed. I think there's like 7 books. Again, I read this quite some time ago, but it was quite memorable. I think one thing Sarah J Maas does well is writing her characters, her characterizations, her friendships, just like the feeling you have with different characters. Really does do great character work. But Throne of Glass is about Selena, and she is an assassin going through this competition to kind of win the king's favor. If she wins this competition, she'll kind of serve him for a couple years and then she'll win her freedom, which is really what she wants. I would recommend you look up reading order if you're interested in that. I did not follow any sort of reading order for Throne of Glass. I actually did not read Tower of Dawn or The Assassin's Blade. When I read that, they were more novellas. They weren't part of the series, so I'll just look it up. But it is a fun time. I think now if I had read that series, I would have seen some of the twists coming. But as like a new person to fantasy, I think they are really enjoyable and exciting, and you'll just be like, oh my god. So my other favorite, oh my god, my top series of the year for 2023 was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So I've got my sweet baby angels right here. So I look at this series like two separate arcs, and I think that has improved my reading experience. So this is the initial trilogy. Starts with Red Rising, Golden Sun, and then Morning Star. I had read this a couple years ago, and I remember I really enjoyed it, but the writing style just was kind of hard to jive with. I think it's first person. I don't actually know. Yeah. Because it's like, I do this, I do that. And so sometimes that's just like, I don't know, hard for me to get into. After I caught up on the series and read the most recent book, 6 out of 7, I learned just kind of Brown's inspiration for this series. And it does, when you kind of know where he took some inspiration from, like a lot of like Greek Roman inspired a tragedy. Some of his inspiration was like Homer, the Odyssey, those things. I feel like it does almost read like a Greek tragedy, because within this series there are like fantastic speeches done by our characters, and they just like, they're really well written, they sound and feel really impactful. Kind of once I got that in my brain, like, okay, this reads more epic and just different, I was fine with it. So I had read this initial trilogy a couple years ago, and I thought, you know, I'm just gonna wait till the books are out, because I love and hate ending on the cliffhanger, right? I feel like a lot of us book people can just run into the, you know, you read a series or you read a book, and then if you don't catch up right away, then it just like fizzles out and you don't remember what happened, you have to reread it, or you just like lose that momentum with a certain series. So I did take a break, and then I reread this last year because I had a coworker who had read up to Lightbringer and she needed someone to talk to. So I was like, okay. For my second go through, I did listen to the entire series. I think I cruised through it in like 10 days, like so much audiobooks, like within like a week. It was quite emotional. I would not recommend that. I would take a break after you read this trilogy. I would take a break. I think the most surprising thing about this series is that it's marketed as young adult, and I think the only reason that is because of Red Rising takes kind of place in a school setting. Like, they have to go through like an academy training, but the themes, the content, like especially in the second arc, I mean, I feel like they get a lot darker, so I would be hesitant to recommend this to a younger reader. It's also narrated by Tim Gerald Reynolds, and he is a fantastic narrator. He really brought Darrow to life for me. And also, like, he's an older man reading this. Like, I think Darrow's, oh my gosh, like late teens in this first trilogy. So really just kind of aged Darrow up in my brain, listening to this older man read this book. But I feel like it worked for me, and I enjoyed my re-listen the second time. I forgot what happened in Morning Star. There's a fantastic ending for this book. I forgot it completely, so I almost rage quit. I'm like, what the fuck, this book? Like, what? I think what I also appreciate about Brown the most is he holds his characters accountable. He does things you don't like, and that just feels more authentic. Because if every book went the way we wanted it to, I almost feel like it maybe dismisses our journey. If there's that, like, kind of mentioned earlier, that like magical loophole, like, well, they're fine. I feel like that just like, okay, then like the stakes really aren't that high. It's not that serious. But I do feel like the stakes are very high in this book. I do think this kind of first arc is really well done. Book 1 does kind of do a lot, but then the world opens up. The politics, I think, are fantastic. I think Darrow kind of just like as a political mind, kind of scheming, seeing the bigger picture. I think he's really quite intelligent. The second arc, though, I feel like is where things really just pop off. Like, the second arc is insane. So it starts with, these are so heavy. It starts with Iron Gold, Dark Age, and Lightbringer is the most recent novel. I don't think we're getting a conclusion until 2025. It's kind of what I just keep seeing online, but that's fine. He can take his time because I will definitely reread this anyways. I just needed a break after I finished. The emotional impact, I feel like, really increases in this second arc. Some criticisms I've heard: Iron Gold takes place like 10 years later. There's new point of views, so I did not mind that, because in my mind these are two separate arcs in the same world, but like they're different. Darrow is not the only point of view in this series. You get more points of view, and I think that actually benefits the story because you read from different perspectives, different colors, and I think that was a good choice. But if you're just like a Darrow stan and you miss him, that's I think where people just don't enjoy this as much. Also, Darrow's lost his mojo a little bit. He is a little lost when we start, so that just feels kind of jarring. But when Darrow gets it back, like he gets it back, and it's so good. Iron Gold sets up a lot for Dark Age, which is just so explosive. Dark Age had one of the best battles I think I've ever listened to. I did listen to this, and it was done fantastically. And then Lightbringer, just wow, like I stared at a wall and cried at the end of this book. Just there's some really powerful moments, really powerful themes. I think the biggest one being brotherhood. That's just like so amazing to read about. I just love it. It does get darker. It does get pretty hard. There's definitely some more gruesome stuff that happens in the second arc. But it's fantastic. I didn't even tell you what this is really about. I'm doing great so far. But ultimately, the Red Rising trilogy is about Darrow, and he's a red mining in the mines of Mars. So he thinks he's mining helium-3, and that him and his clan are gonna help like terraform. They're gonna help civilization. I don't like to give spoilers. I do tend to go into books without knowing too much. Darrow thinks his current way of living is the truth, and something happens, and just basically like the wool is pulled over his eyes. Like he is enlightened to everything that's actually been going on, and then that kind of like propels him towards rebellion. It's just really fantastic. I love it, the series, so much. It's a good bedtime. Like the emotions, like it is kind of a tough read. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have younger readers, just be cautious. I'm 30 years old and I had to take a little bit of a reading break after what I had read, just because it gets pretty heavy. It felt like I had truly gone through some shit with these people, and I just like needed some time to process all that. So, but really fantastic if you're looking for some great character work, kind of just like high stakes. It's so fantastic. It's Ninth Reign. Ooh. So this is, what series is this actually called? Winnowing Flame Trilogy. Oh my god, I knew that. So this is a Winnowing Flame Trilogy. Starts with Ninth Reign, and we have The Bitter Twins and Poison Song. So Ninth Reign by Jen Williams is fantastic, and I actually would really like to reread this year. I finished this in 2022 maybe. Yeah, I think this is 2022. And the more I just think about it and ruminate, the more I enjoy it. It has characters called Uborans, and they're basically like vampires, but kind of just done in a different way. So you follow Tourmaline, and I just kind of love the back. Tourmaline the Oathless has no taste for waiting to die while the realm of his ancestors falls to pieces. Talk about a guilt trip. It's kind of funny because he's just like, I'm not gonna like hang around while like shit's falling apart. Like, I'm gonna go find some wine and women. Like, I'm not gonna save the world. I have Lady Vincenza, Vintage is her name. So you follow Vintage, and she's an kind of older middle-aged woman, and she is an explorer. She's an adventurer, and it's just really refreshing to follow older characters. And then you have Noon, and she is a fell witch. So you do have witches in this book, and I just think it's done in a really different way. Not like Harry Potter witches and wizards, but it's just kind of fascinating. You have animal companions in this series, and then you have like the coolest bad guy. The opposing force for our heroes in this trilogy is just really unique. I have not seen a bad guy like this before. It just feels like a different type of fantasy while also feeling kind of like cozy and original. I don't know, I just really enjoyed what Jen Williams did. This is definitely a favorite series of mine. These, oh my gosh, these are huge. So I have these bind-ups by Elise Kova, Awakens and Vortex Chronicles, and there are 4 or 5 books each kind of arc. This is a fantastic floppy paperback, just like, oh my god, just like, it's so good. And then there is art in here. Let me find, at the chapter headings, if I can find one. There is some really beautiful art in here too, which is really neat. This is available on Kindle Unlimited. I read this a couple years ago, and it is such a good fantasy romance. the romances kind of fade to black, but you get to see their relationship build. You get to, I don't know, like, you don't need anything else just because, like, you, like, know they love each other. But it is a fantasy in that we have Valhalla, and she has a power she's not supposed to have. She ends up learning from Prince Aldrich, and romance, chaos ensues. The magic system in here is really cool. It's elemental based, and so kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, obviously, like, powerful forces, it says, lurking in the dark, in the shadows. And the only ally Valhalla may have is a cutthroat Crown Prince Aldrich. I wouldn't say enemies to lovers, but like, they don't know each other. And I think my favorite part about this series is how it connects to the next one. Elise Kova did something really fantastic to bring these two together. And when I had finished the second arc, I immediately wanted to go back to the first one, just to see what I missed, because it was just really well done and I enjoyed it so much. She also has her Married to Magic standalone fantasy romance series, if you're interested in that. Yeah, I just really enjoy her writing, so I'm excited to see what she keeps doing, because I really liked this. An Enchantment of Ravens. So this is not a series, this is a standalone by Margaret Rogerson. I've listened to this a couple times. It's narrated by Julia Whalen, who's my absolute favorite. And this is just a really nice and different take on the Fae and fairies. So in this book, we have Isabel, and she's a painter. I know, whatever. If you've read ACOTAR, you're like, wait a second. But it's really cool. So she's a painter, and one of her paintings, her portraits, catches the attention of the Autumn King. No.
He is the Autumn King because it's the... She catches, anyways, Isabel catches the attention of Rook, who is the Autumn Prince, I thought.
Oh, he's the Autumn Prince. So Isabel is a painter, and one of her paintings, her portraits that she did for Rook, the Autumn Prince, kind of like caught like the wrong attention. So she ends up painting sorrow in his eyes. Like, she can see mortal sorrow in his eyes and paints that and captures humanity in her painting, and that is like the crime of all crimes, because the Fae are not, like, they don't have, you know, mortal desires and wishes and like loss, so that causes some problems. It's gonna ruin his reputation. So she gets whisked into the fairy realm to try to like remedy his reputation. The Fae in this book are kind of not what they seem. It kind of goes more towards like traditional Fae folklore, where they're like tricksters and maybe not so trustworthy, maybe not as beautiful as they seem. Just really enjoyed this story. It's super cozy. It's a quick read. There's just some really fantastic moments in this book. I really enjoyed this. Oh yeah, I totally forgot a lot about this book. Priory of the Orange Tree has dragons, and I feel like that's all you need to know. I'm just kidding. So The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon is a fantasy standalone with kind of a prequel out now. This is kind of a nice chunky book here, but it is about, there's dragons, and so you have Queen Sabran, or Sabran, you have Queen, and she has yet to produce an heir to the throne, and the Nameless One is about to awaken. The Nameless One is a big dragon, so you get some lore involving him, kind of why that's important, and then our characters currently have to deal with that. And then you also follow another perspective where you follow Sabran, and you learn about the queen through her lady-in-waiting, and there's a really nice female romance there, really wonderful. And then you also follow Tanae, and she is, oh yeah, I forgot a lot about this book. I just remember, I'm really not selling this well, I just remember really enjoying it when I read it. You also follow a dragon rider, but she ends up rescuing someone and like hides him, and that becomes part of the plot. I just really enjoyed it. Which is kind of like, it is kind of a slowish read, but I did really enjoy it, and I think maybe I might need to reread it because I don't remember much at all. But I did enjoy it. So, Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake and narrated by Amy Landon. This is a really fantastic, I think it's a quartet. Yeah. 4 books in the series. I think there might be a couple novellas. I just did the main series. And you follow 3 sisters, and they all turn 16. They're triplets. They turn 16, and at their 16th birthday starts the year where one of them has to assassinate the other, and then that will be the new queen for the time. Like, how brutal is that, right? Like, oh my god. So you have Arsinoe, Mirabella, and what's her name? Oh my god. Catherine. Catherine. So you follow those 3 sisters. Mirabella, she's an elementalist. Catherine is a poisoner, and I think that's really cool. And then you have Arsinoe, and she's a naturalist. So the poisoner, like, it's a very grim feeling fantasy story. So with Catherine, the poisoner, like, she displays her power by eating a bunch of poisonous things in court. That's how she proves how strong she is and like why she should be queen. She's just like, yeah, I'm drinking all this like poison and I'm eating all this stuff and I'm gonna live, like I'm fine. The average person who's not a poisoner would die, and even like the best poisoner probably wouldn't survive, but she's like, I got this. Or does she? Maybe she doesn't. I really like just the sisterhood that kind of comes out of it. They're all raised independently, so they know each other, but they don't, you know. And if you just thought like, God, how awful would that have to be to kill your sibling? Jesus, it's intense, right? Arsinoe is just kind of struggling with it. She really doesn't want it. Mirabella is kind of like the crowd favorite, and Catherine is like determined to like rise up. I don't know, it's just a really great series. I enjoyed it a lot this past year. The Wayward Children by Seanan McGuire. So I've read and listened to these. You want to start with Every Heart a Doorway. That's kind of the first book. I feel like that just kind of tells you what's going on. And then the rest of the series can kind of be read, I think, in any order is what I've heard. I've kind of just picked up books here and there. They're short novellas. It is a little bit darker than I thought. So the premise of this series is you have these children who go on these fantastical adventures, you know, like Narnia. Like, okay, they went through the wardrobe. Now they're back in the real world talking all this nonsense. Like, how do they assimilate? So that's kind of what this series is about. And they end up going to Eleanor West's school for children. And it sounds very like whimsical, and it kind of is, but I would say there's a more darker like undertone to it. It's not as like bright and pretty and fancy. It does actually address like, I mean, some of these parents have given up their children because they say they're crazy and they're nonsense and they won't like just go to school and be normal. So it kind of like the darker side of like, realistically, like how would that go if the kids came back from the wardrobe? So I really enjoyed it. There's a new book coming out, and all I know is there's dinosaurs on the cover. Yeah, which is great. I can't wait to see where our characters go next. So I only read the first book, and that is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. And it is like cozy sci-fi. Definitely cozy sci-fi. Our main character is a monk, and he's feeling kind of lost in his current role. So he does look to becoming a tea monk, and you get to see him go on that adventure. And through his tea monk process, he does go into the wild and encounters a robot. And the robots were previously in the world, but they just like all up and left. And they're like, you know what, like we're kind of done being machines. We're gonna go live, experience, and then like we'll come back when we're ready. So there's just this kind of like mass exodus of the robots. And so he meets one on his journey of being a tea monk, and they just become really good friends. It's just kind of sweet and cozy. I feel like Becky Chambers really packed a punch for the short novella. So I'm just excited to keep going. I just thought it was really well done. So The Raven Boy Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. And this is narrated by Will Patton. And he did a really fantastic job bringing these characters' voices to life. But this is about Blue and the Raven Boys. So Blue's mom, her mom's friends, they're kind of like witchy, clairvoyant, they have powers. And Blue starts to develop some and ends up seeing a ghost. She starts to kind of have her own like supernatural experiences, and ends up getting kind of brought into the Raven Boys, and they are also kind of on this magical hunt. Gansey, Ronan, oh my gosh, I can't remember all the boys' names, but it was just a really fun series. The characters, the relationships were done really well. The magic was pretty interesting. I just had a good time reading it. It was really fun. Another sci-fi favorite for me is Project Hail Mary. I did listen to this, and I think for the best experience of this book, listening is the way to go, because there's a production choice that you only get by listening. If you read it, you would not have the same impact. Let me find the narrator for that one. Oh, it's only available on Audible, I think. I think it's an Audible original, unfortunately. Narrated by Ray Porter. Fantastic. So basically, like, all I think you should know going into it is that your main character wakes up on a spaceship. He doesn't know who he is, where he's at, or what he's supposed to do. And you just figure it out with them. But like I said, like, listening, I think, is the best way to experience this book, because something does happen kind of towards the middle. And there's a certain production choice that you would only get by listening. So I think it's a pretty fantastic audiobook. It's kind of science heavy, but I feel like it is broken down in a very digestible way. I really enjoyed our main character. I thought he was funny. I like the relationship. There is a friendship that develops that I think is great. Yeah, just a really cool sci-fi. This is the same author who did The Martian. But I think I read The Martian, but I think I prefer Project Hail Mary better. What do I want to talk about next? Okay, let's talk about kind of like some spooky stuff-ish. I kind of read like some spooky things. I definitely like in the fall time, I like to read some spooky stuff. So this recommendation is kind of hard to make because I did not like my reading or listening experience to this book. This is The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. I tried reading it, and then I don't know, I just couldn't jive with the writing style. Then I tried listening to it, and I kind of just bounced around back and forth just to kind of like get through the book. I didn't enjoy the experience. Oh, we got a puppy. I did not enjoy the experience. However, the ending was something I did not see coming, and for whatever reason, like reading fantasy, I can suspend belief, I can get sucked in. It doesn't have to make sense. It can be like whimsical and fun, and I'll just go along for the ride. But anytime there's a thriller, I'm like instantly like more like like judgy, inquisitive. I'm like, man, like I know what you're doing. Like I'm paranoid reading because I'm like, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make me suspicious. But this one I truly did not see coming, and I do think I keep thinking about it. That's why I'm recommending it, because even though I didn't really love the reading process of this story, I keep thinking about it, and I do believe a reread would be really fascinating because then you could see kind of just like what Katrina Ward was setting up for us. So really, all I think you need to know is you follow a religious cat, kind of like a older, like middle-aged loner, kind of just weird man, and a little girl. And you follow those perspectives. You follow one more, but really, like, I feel like that's just enticing enough and strange enough. So if that sounds interesting at all, definitely check it out. I do think I want to read this again in the fall time, because knowing the ending, I don't know, I just think it would be a really interesting reread. And I'm kind of curious to see what else she's written. Another one I want to talk about is The House in the Pines. Oh my god, we're talking about spooky books. The House in the Pines by Anna Reyes, I believe. And this is a cool book. So it starts off with your main character being unreliable. She is withdrawing. She has a benzodiazepine addiction, and she's kind of withdrawing. She's unable to get her stuff. So it already starts off with like describing like the side effects of that, like hallucinations, paranoia. So you know she's unreliable based on what she's going through. And she had witnessed the death of her friend as a young girl. And someone she had kind of a relationship with was present at the time, but no one was ever really charged with her friend's death. It was viewed as an accident, but like some stuff she had gone through just wasn't adding up. So she comes across a news clip of that guy who was there when her friend died, present at the scene of another death. And she's like, this means something, like we need to look into this, like I know it's this guy. So you kind of watch her just kind of spiral a little bit as she's remembering her past, struggling in the current time, but when you find out what's happening, I thought it was really cool. And I'm not gonna tell you because that's a spoiler. But I just thought it was really fascinating when you find out kind of like what's going on, and it makes sense. And I just thought it did something really unique, and I thought was neat. Another kind of spooky one, A Dowry of Blood, and this is a vampire story. We had picked this for a book club my friend hosts, and I was kind of in the minority. I loved the audiobook narrator's voice. It's narrated by a woman. Her name. Let me get it for you. This A Dowry of Blood is by S.T. Gibson, and it's narrated by Abby Creighton. I thought Abby did a great job. I liked her voice. But you follow Constanza as she's turned into a vampire and brought into, basically, he's never named, I don't believe, but basically brought into the vampire's home. And I don't know if that was a target demographic for this book, because I didn't see anything problematic with it. So like some themes in this book is like gaslighting, relationship abuse. Constanza really just kind of like puts a bunch of her feelings aside. You see a lot of manipulation by the vampire who turned her, and then more people are brought into this kind of like vampire relationship. So it ends up turning into like a polyamorous, like toxic thing. And I was here for it. I actually really enjoyed it. I think I would be a victim to this, like, vampire, like, sex cult. Whatever, it is what it is. I just thought it was, like, kind of a weirdly sexy story. Constanza does kind of get her, like, victory in the end. I think it's a perfect, just kind of quick, kind of just darker toned novel for the fall time. And I do believe there's another book, I don't know if it's really a series, there's another novella, if Goodreads loads. I can pop a picture up, but I do believe there's a second book in this world that I do want to check out, and then she has a new one coming out this year too. So I did like my experience reading this book. It was really fun. Christine. So I've read a couple Kings over the years, and I do think Christine is a really fantastic audiobook experience, because the narrator slowly, like as our main character becomes more and more unhinged, so does our narrator. You can hear his voice cadence change and become unhinged as you're listening, and I thought that was a great performance style. He really brought that to life. This book did kind of ignite just a little King obsession. I read one other book that I'm going to talk about by King last year that I just absolutely loved. We watched the 1980s Christine movie, which I'm mad about because they totally changed like some of the characters. Like, you follow our main character and his best friend Arnie, and they meet LeBay, who owns Christine the car, but in the movie they combined like two characters. It was very strange. Anyways, I thought that was just kind of like a fun campy movie watch, but it also just like inspired a little like Christine photo shoot I did, because there's no like costumes for Christine, right? How do you dress up like a car? So I just kind of like did these pictures here to like embody like what I think Christine would be as, you know, humanized. So I just kind of played around with some Photoshop. Oh, it's narrated by Holter Graham. He's done a lot of audiobooks. He's done a ton. And I thought he was fantastic for that, because you really did hear him get crazier and crazier as it went on. And just like, I kind of like how King just has some like gritty moments. Like, what's their main character's name? I'll work on this for the next one. I really do promise. I don't remember details sometimes when I read, but I remember the vibes. I remember the time that I had. Okay. Yeah, so we're following Dennis. Dennis is our main character, and his best friend Arnie is the one who gets the car, Christine. And bad shit starts happening once Arnie gets this car. But I like how King writes about, I'm gonna try to verbalize this, but he writes about really uncomfortable things. So Arnie is described as like being kind of ugly and nerdy and having like acne scars all over his face, and Dennis knows that. Like, and Dennis talks about sometimes being embarrassed to be friends with Arnie because of how he looks. And like, that's really an uncomfy feeling, right? Like, I remember growing up and like having that experience where you were embarrassed about someone or something, and like, it's just kind of an icky feeling. But I like how King writes about that and how he approaches those feelings, because I don't know, it just makes it more human to me. And then there's a really great fight scene between Arnie, Dennis, and like the school bully, and like the teacher gets involved, and I just thought that was done really well. I felt like I was there in the schoolyard, like she was about to go down and I was there watching, not fighting. I don't know, I just really like some of the writing King does. So it's just a really fun one. The other King book I read, obsessed, Billy Summers. I was so blown away by this story, and I think it's just because like the marketing for it, I don't know, like I just kind of picked it up on a whim after I read Christine. I just kind of wanted some more King. I think I saw one other booktuber talk about it and I was like, okay, sure. Sometimes I'm not very hard to sell on a book. I'm just like, okay, sure. I need to look up the narrative for you guys, because I did listen to this and I thought the audiobook narrator did a fantastic job. It is narrated by Paul Sparks. Fantastic. I would definitely listen to something read by Paul Sparks again. But Billy Summers is about Billy, and he is a hitman, and it's his last job. So it's a crime thriller. It's not like spooky as in like horror monsters type of thriller. I think what threw me off in the book is I thought the entire book would be his last job. But the job he's doing wraps up pretty quickly, and then you're introduced to a new character who really just derails all of Billy's plans. And as I was listening to this, I was like, oh, okay, like that's interesting. Where's this going? And I fucking loved it. I loved where it went. I feel like it, again, just kind of brought in some uncomfy things. I'm trying to like describe this book without spoiling anything, because really I enjoyed that experience, going in blind, not knowing what was going to happen, and then watching the story take a different direction than I anticipated. That in and of itself was very enjoyable. I do think the book is self-aware. It addresses like Stockholm syndrome, like it brings it up, like, are you sure this isn't just Stockholm syndrome? And they're like, nah, like I'm aware. I don't know, I feel like it kind of pokes fun at itself a little bit. And it also just like addresses like what makes a good guy a good guy. Like, can you do bad things, be a good guy? Like, what's your moral compass? Revenge, like getting like what you want. I don't know. I loved Billy Summers, and it was like a very surprising find, and I just loved it so much. I cried at the end. I think I mentioned with like Pierce Brown and Red Rising, like the story doesn't maybe go where you want it to go, but it almost is like better because it didn't, but like you want it but you don't, and you understand, and you're just like, wow, I just really fucking liked it. And like some people might read that and be like, that's questionable, like that's really disturbing, you like that, but like that's fine. I enjoyed it. I think it was really like the things that happened and the relationships within the book are really nuanced and complicated, and like they just make you feel things because you're like, it's kind of icky, but maybe I get it, but like I don't know, like it feels weird. There is, I would say, definitely heavy content warnings. Like it's a crime thriller, so there's obviously death. Our main character is a war veteran, so he has a lot of PTSD from that. But I think the biggest kind of trigger warning is assault, like male on female and male rape is in this book. So I just kind of know that got a little heavy listening to, but overall, really fantastic story. A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires and My Best Friend's Exorcism. I really enjoyed these. I listened to both of these, thought it was a great time. So Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, I just love it. Kind of played on like the housewife trope a little bit. Like, okay, you've got your cute little housewife and your cute little book club, and just these ladies are getting together, but they're also like hunting a vampire. So we get really busy at those types of book clubs, okay? I liked kind of that like female commentary, the friendships that our characters develop within this book club, kind of the vampire, how they take him down, how they save the town, I thought was great. And then My Best Friend's Exorcism, it's super campy, kind of ridiculous, but I really liked the friendship in this book. I'm kind of a scaredy cat, so like if my best friend started acting possessed, I'd probably be like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, freaking me out. But our best friend, like, she is gonna save her friend. Like, she's not giving up, and I think that's really powerful. The ending, it's just kind of ridiculous. It's a fun, like, campy, I think is the best way to describe it. It's just a good time. So I have some Kristen Hanna. I did not think, oh yeah, we'll talk about some historical fiction. I did not think I was a historical fiction girly, because like in history class, going through school, it's like kind of boring. However, I have really enjoyed historical fiction when I can find characters I love and like get invested in their story. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is crazy. I can't believe that happened. So Kristen Hanna has two that I really enjoyed, The Great Alone and The Four Winds. So The Four Winds follows our main character. Her name is Elsa. I did listen to this. I listened to both of these, and I believe they are both narrated by Julia Wayland, who is my absolute favorite audiobook narrator. If you have not checked out Julia Wayland's voice, fantastic. But this follows the Great Depression in the 1930s, and there's a really just beautiful theme of like kind of female rights, women's rights at the beginning. And then we follow our main character Elsa as her and her family leave their estate, their homestead, travel across the United States to hopefully start a new life in California. And I do enjoy, we have like a mother figure, an older woman. I don't know how old she is, but she's not like 17. I don't like when she has her kids and is going across the country. Like survival, hope, what they have to go through. Things when they get to California don't really turn out as good as it seems. The way that Kristen Hanna describes their journey going across these plains, like the drought, like surviving, trying to get food, just encountering other people and being safe, and like the dust storms, like the destruction that did is, she did so amazing. The ending was pretty powerful. A testament to hope, resilience, and the strength of the human spirit to survive adversity. It really is quite a fantastic story, and I enjoyed it a lot. Another one by Kristen Hanna is The Great Alone. This one's kind of special to me because this takes place in Alaska, and that's where I live. So I've read and listened to this a couple times, and it's a really great historical fiction. This takes place in Alaska in 1974, where I live, like in theory, where this is happening. It is a fictional place, but it's across the bay in Homer, so really like 4 hours away from here on like a remote island is where this is taking place, and it's pretty cool. And Kristen Hanna did spend time in Alaska. Her family has a lodge here, so you can definitely tell she knows the state when she's writing about it. So you follow the Albrights. Lenny is her main character, her mom Cora, and then her dad. What's her dad's name? Ernst. Oh, Ernst. Freaking Ernst. Ernst sucks. So Ernst is a war veteran. He's got a lot of PTSD, and he's always kind of just like on to the next. And he is moving the family to Alaska to like start a new life. And they end up moving to Alaska in the 70s, and they are remote. Like they have to drive. I think they're moving from California. They have to take, they drive, they have to take a boat, then they have to like drive once they get to the island. There's like one general store, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no internet. This is the 70s, right? So very remote. They have to grow their own food and hunt. So you do get a lot of that really cool homesteading. However, I think like the best thing about this book, sorry, I keep flipping it so much. The best thing about this book is the descriptions of Alaska and how unsettling some of this book is. So if you're not familiar where I'm at in Alaska, but in some places in Alaska too, like very north, the sun does not come out. It is very dark. Probably like October, November, sunset ends up being at like 5 p.m. and it doesn't rise until 9 or 10. So like we don't have a lot of daylight, and you really feel that. And Lenny's dad really feels it. So like taking this like traumatized, kind of volatile man and putting him in the dark, cold, isolated state really just does not go well for him. Okay, so you get to see like how unhinged Ernst is becoming. Lenny's trying to navigate being a teenager, friendships, love, all while trying to stay safe in her own home and in Alaska. And I just thought this was done really well. I like it a lot. The ending gets a little ridiculous, like kind of like Lifetime-y, just like, like this is a little crazy. But overall, it's a really fantastic story and I liked it a lot. The Diamond Eye. So this is definitely an audiobook I would recommend. I did want a physical copy because I enjoyed it so much. This is by Kate Quinn. I could not read that backwards. It's by Kate Quinn. Narrated by, I think the narrator actually is really what brings this to life, because she has an accent and the kind of like Russian words in here are just done. Is she Russian? The Soviets. Her accent actually is really beautiful with saying some of the words in here. I just feel like her delivery was really powerful, so it definitely like improved my experience of this book. Oh, this is narrated by Saskia Marvled. I can put it up here. Hopefully I did her name justice. It was narrated really well, but this is about Mila Pavlichenko. It's kind of fun to say. And she is, I believe she's the first. She ends up racking up 300 sniper kills in World War II. She was previously a librarian, a scholar. She's a mom, and she decides to kind of just like take up charge and join the fight during World War II. Really powerful theme of like motherhood and being your own person, what she goes through, but still finding love, learning about herself, improving her skill, kind of just showing people what she's made of. It was really fantastic. The author at the end, Kate Quinn, does talk about kind of her inspiration and kind of the things she tweaked alongside history. But I would say just kind of after reading that little expert at the end, she really did follow a fantastic story, and I feel like gave Mila the ending she really deserved. There's also, I thought this was cool, but there's some pictures in the back of the book which I didn't get when I had listened, so that is pretty neat. Yeah, it's just a really, really fantastic historical fiction. The other book I really enjoyed was Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour, and this is a really beautifully written female romance. You get kind of slice of life from both characters, and like them coming together and meeting and just creating a life together. It's also, I did listen to this, and it's narrated by Julia Whalen. Again, my favorite. Oh, I didn't realize this when I read it. It was a debut. It was fantastic for a debut. That is great news. It is marketed as YA. Okay. The two main characters, one is sought-after bartender renowned for as much for her brilliant cocktails as to the mystery that surrounds her. Then her other character is a florist, and I like remember reading this and I like thinking I never wanted to be in a lesbian flower shop getting cocktails like more than ever. Like it was really great. I really liked it for a romance. A Man Called Ove is by Frederick Bachman, and this book made me fucking ugly cry, and then I turned on the translated movie and continued to ugly cry. I just wasn't ready to be done hurting. So this book, it's just really sad, but also hopeful, and then sad again. So you follow Uwe, and you follow him as he has a couple failed suicide attempts. His wife has passed away, he's lonely, he's kind of just done. And so he's like, okay, like we're gonna end this. However, his efforts keep being thwarted, and he ends up having new neighbors who won't leave him alone, and they just like kind of weasel into his life. I thought it was really sweet because Uwe is like your grumpy curmudgeon, like he's the old guy we've probably all run into. We're like, geez, like what's wrong with you? But Uwe gets really humanized, and you realize like why he is the way he is. I don't think that explains away behaviors in people who are just kind of grumpy, but I think it's just more so a nice reminder, like we've all been through shit, we're all going through stuff, and it's just a really sweet book. I really loved The City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, and I also enjoyed Eat, Pray, Love. I have this awful sticker right here. Whatever. So City of Girls, I listened to both of these. Eat, Pray, Love is narrated by Elizabeth Gilbert. She has a wonderful voice. And then I will put the audiobook narrator up for City of Girls. But City of Girls is about a young woman who moves away from home to New York, and she ends up working in a theater. And like she kind of gets into this like lush life of like show and theater and the arts. I just remember really enjoying that adventure. It does kind of span the entire life of our main character. She has some really great friendships and romance. She makes some questionable decisions and you're like, no, don't do it. But then it kind of comes back around, and just a really cool time era slice of life. And then Eat, Pray, Love is, I guess it's a memoir, right? Yeah, it's a memoir. The reviews on this are just hit or miss. I really enjoyed it. I do feel like listening to the narrator read her own work, I think that really just brought it to life more. But really, like, I mean, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about her divorce and depression, and I mean, I feel like, you know, at least me, we're all just kind of like looking for purpose in life, and if I could eat, pray, love my way through fucking Italy, Indonesia, and Bali, like, sure, why not? What a fun adventure, and like what a great way to just shake up your life, you know, when something awful happens. You know, I wish everyone could go on vacation when bad things happen, but I don't know, I just really enjoyed this story. I thought it was really well done. The movie was fun. I think I just really enjoyed the descriptions of all the places she went to. I thought that was, I don't know, just kind of transported me to these different countries, so I thought it was really fun. These are two kind of like self-help. I do enjoy reading the occasional like you are a badass type of book. So I've listened and read You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero a few times. If you've read a lot of these style of books, I don't know if there will be anything new. I just like the kind of candid way that Jen delivers it. So like kind of early on in the beginning, she's like, I like went to lunch with my inner child, and I've done like a naked dancing on the beach, and I've connected with, you know, my inner shadow by doing XYZ. Like she kind of addresses some of the silly things that happen within self-help work, and just brings it to just a funny, digestible way. And I just really like it. Every time I kind of need like a hoorah, I do like to listen to this book. And then Buy Yourself the Fucking Lillies by Tara Schuster. I also really liked this too. She really talks about her struggles with anxiety in here, and I think that's what I connected to the most. It's just her anxiety and just kind of impending doom, like what are you gonna do? Trying to like move past it. Yeah, I really just thought it was fantastic. I would like to reread it again. She talks about like money and just like how to take care of yourself. I mean, like I said, it's nothing like profound or groundbreaking. I just really liked her delivery. Yeah, I just thought it was a really good kind of just like, you are awesome. Like, just buy yourself the fucking flowers, you know? Like, do nice stuff for yourself. I just like the message. I really liked Carrie Soto is back. And I've seen some people not like it, and that makes me sad. I do think the audiobook experience is really well done. It is a full cast, but the main character who narrates Carrie did phenomenal. Some of the criticism, some people just don't like Carrie, but I did because she was kind of unlikable, right? Like, Carrie was like one of the tennis greats of her time, and there's a new rival kind of rising up, and Carrie's like, maybe I'm not gonna retire, I'm gonna come back and defend my title. I'm coming back. So Carrie is coached by her dad and kind of has a romance, like, but she doesn't really commit, but she's just like a very like career sports driven woman, and like she's not warm and fuzzy. You could argue there's a lot she hasn't addressed in her life because she's been so focused on this one goal of being the best at tennis. And you kind of see that with the choices she makes, right? Like, you know, not committing to romances or being cold or like not being vulnerable. Like, no, like we don't have time for that because we have a thing to do. Like, we're busy. So because she was kind of like standoffish and cold and like didn't open up and maybe not make the right choices, like I liked her for it. The audio performance by all the characters was great. Listening to those tennis matches was just like fantastic. I've never wanted to like watch a tennis match so bad. Like, I just thought it was really exciting. Oh man, it was so good. And then the relationship between Carrie and her dad I really enjoyed. I thought that was really beautiful. Yeah, I definitely teared up a couple times. Just a great Taylor Jenkins read. My other Taylor Jenkins read since we're talking about her, would be Daisy Jones and the Six. I do feel like that's a really fantastic audio experience because you again have a full cast and it's almost like interview style, and then each character has a different voice actor. So it does feel like a sit down of like Daisy and the crew, and they're telling you about all their shenanigans on their life and all the chaos they went through. I have never also wanted to be part of a fictional rock band so bad. Like, I remember listening to this kind of in the spring, summer, and I'm like, yeah, like, I want to be from the 70s and like vibing and like rock it out. Just super fun. Okay, so The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulier, and it's narrated by Isabelle Starr LeBlanc. That was a fantastic book. I picked it up on a whim. I think like an online book club I like sometimes join in on had picked it, so I saw it. It was on Libby, the library app, and it was so good. I didn't know anything going into it. I do think the audiobook is a great experience because the narrator does sound Native American, and the book features Donis, who is part of the Ojibwe tribe. I don't think I said that right. I could say the words like when I was listening to the book because I heard it repeated so many times. But it's gone. But the narrator does so much justice to it because of the beautiful Native American words. But you follow Donis, and she is not a full tribe member because of her parents, so she is kind of looked down on as not being kind of like a member of the community. She wants to be a full tribe member, so she's kind of struggling with identity. And then a murder very, very close to her just like kind of shakes her and the town. So she ends up getting involved in that. We're trying to figure out what happened to her friend, what's going on in the community, you know, like while struggling with identity. There's romance and like navigating that and just like kind of finding who she is. The ending was really explosive. There's a fantastic theme about community. There's a part where the elders just like come together, and like being in American culture, like I don't have those relationships. Like there's not a lot of closeness with my grandparents and like community in the way that there are in other cultures and communities. And it just was like, fuck yeah, like go elders, go community. Like I just really liked it. And I actually like finished listening to it and like immediately re-listened because I enjoyed it so much. It was just a really good story and just kind of took me by surprise. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. Thank God I keep notes because there's just nothing. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akweke Emeze. And I had seen those all over Booktube, and everyone was like, it's beautiful, it's lyrical, it's like, oh my gosh, the writing, like, yeah, it is like really beautiful and lyrical, but the way it was described, it just felt like one of those like literary books that was like really profound and poignant and something I just would be too dumb to understand. But no one talked about how fucking funny that book is. It is hilarious. Like the first couple chapters, you're at a club with your main character and she's getting it on, and like her and her best friend are just like wreaking havoc in this club, and it's ridiculous. It was so funny. I just really like, I don't know, I just was kind of like taken off guard by like how funny it was. It was great. There is an age gap romance, and that was really fascinating. So our main character meets a guy at the bar, and they end up just like kind of like starting to date, and she's an artist, and so like he's like, oh, my dad's like a curator. Anyways, his dad is in the art realm, and they visit his dad frequently, so he's like, come with me, meet my dad. And she meets his dad, and yeah, chaos ensues. Like it just couldn't look away. There was, again, like previously said, like really beautiful writing and themes about death and moving on and love again, like love after loss, and navigating complicated relationships. But you're not too dumb to read that. It was really funny, actually quite easy to read, and I had a good time. Educated by Tara Westover is narrated by Julia Whalen, and it is a fantastic memoir. Tara grew up in, gosh, I think Utah, with a very religious family. Like they didn't go to school, they didn't seek out modern medicine, they didn't go to doctors. There's lots of like herbal home remedies, which like is fine to an extent. I'm a nurse, and there's a few times where I'm like, you should really go to a doctor. Like, oh my god. so you basically are just learning about Tara's crazy family, toxic relationships between her parents and siblings. Like, you're reading this and you're like, oh, like, honey, this is not good, like, get out of there. But she ultimately does make the decision to go to school and go to college. And I think like a really memorable scene is she is in a college class and there was something on the screen and she's like, well, what is that? Like, she asks out loud to the professor in the class, like, what is this thing? And no one answers her. They're giving her weird looks like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and so she kind of gets ignored. And so she like goes to look up this thing and is horrified to learn about the Holocaust. Like, that was what was being taught about in her class. She had never heard of it. And basically her feelings of like, I should have known this thing, like, why didn't I know this? Like, there's all this stuff I don't know that everyone else does. It just was actually really interesting to reflect on, like, my own personal education. Like, what are things that I just take for granted for knowing, but like her, she didn't know these things, you know? I thought that piece of it was really fascinating, and it just was really powerful to see someone kind of like rise up, take charge of their education, and take charge of their life, and it was just really powerful. So, and that is it, guys. I think I got most of the books I really enjoyed over the past few years. It was a lot. I need a snack. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me, and I will catch you with the next one. Bye!